Good evening. We have a new location because we were doing bedtime stories. So I'm in bed. I brushed my teeth, so I'm gonna have to brush my teeth again, which I'm debating whether I'm gonna do it or not, because to be quite frank, I can get away with once or twice about, not brushing my teeth after I've eaten something, after I've already brushed my teeth. But I have been utilizing that a lot lately, so I gotta be careful. So maybe I will brush my teeth. But I'm eating some banana pudding. And I got the Book of Mormon. We're gonna do it. Read a bedtime story from it. Because to be quite frank, I haven't read very far in it. I tried. I really tried. I read a couple things. Or things that kind of I felt the vibes on. But I told the story in my Fast and Furious, which I want to call Fast and Curious. Maybe. They're both really fun and whimsy names. I named it Fast and Furious because I was reading through the comments. I named it Fast and Furious because of the franchise Fast and Furious with the cars and the car racing and Paul Walker and Vin Diesel. The franchise that frankly went on a little too long. They made too many movies. That one. That's where I got the name Fast and Furious from, because we just had so many people going and you just get up there and it was super cool, But someone said Fast and Curious, which, I mean, it fits that too. Everything's so curious. With all the people getting up there and so many inspirational things that are being shared. Oh, I love it so much. Okay. But I told this in my story about how I picked up this book because it was in a book exchange. And the only reason I picked it up is because I thought it was irrelevant. I was like, I'm not reading that. That's just I was playing off my prejudices and biases from what I understood. Because previously, to be quite frank, every Mormon that I had met or interacted with came off rather arrogant. But I understand now where that arrogance comes from, which I misperceived. And I call it arrogance, but I think it's just confidence, because I recognize now what the young people grow up in, the environment they grow up in, where they have, they're treated like adults. It's so extraordinary how they're given responsibilities that really mimic and imitate things that you're going to utilize later on in life. Oh shoot, there's M and A prophets, Aaronites, and something with an M. And you get a certificate when you go on your mission. I was aware of that because I saw people that got certificates, or their parents did when they became the M name. But the Aaronites, I think, they're the kids they're younger. But even in bestowing on a kid that type of title and an authority and label makes them confident, makes them feel like they have responsibility, like they have a seat at the table. And so that's extraordinary. Oh gosh, where was I going on this whimsy tangent? Oh yeah, I was going to tell bedtime stories. So I grabbed this because I'm so unfamiliar with it. So I'm just going to talk. I'm just going to open up to a random page and just talk about whatever. But, the reason I grabbed it is because I judged it by its cover. Because again, every interaction I've had with Mormons, particularly the men, not to stereotype, but particularly with the men, they just came off as very confident, very, very sure of themselves, which is extraordinary. But sometimes they forget about the part about being able to perceive themselves and question back to themselves how logical their thought process is. The women can do it too, right? Every human can do it. Every human can be a little confident. I most certainly have been accused of being confident. Oh, I love when someone calls me arrogant, because I encourage them to articulate to me why they would utilize that word. It's oh, please explain more. I'd love to hear it. Because then they get queasy and their argument or their explanation falls apart. And I said, okay. Maybe we utilize a different term then, if you're not able to explain the word you chose. Ugh. Anyways. I've said this about, oh, here, Yeti, you can lick the bowl. Excuse me. I love going to the bookstore because the books that are well written, they have plain covers. They don't have much on them. There's not much fancy stuff on them. And if you look at religious books, because to be quite frank, right, all books are books. This is a book. Regardless of what this is on the front, this is a book. It's a book. Same as the Bible, same as the Quran, same as the Torah. Those are all books. Those are books. They're works of literature. No one can argue that. They're all books. And the way that you can perceive whether a book has good writing in it, quality writing, or something significant in it, not that any book isn't significant, because every book is a creation of a human, an expression of something that a human created. Therefore, it is extraordinary. However, certain books that don't require as much attention to them or as much flashiness, right? Because if you go to the bookstore, if you go to Barnes & Noble, I keep using Barnes & Noble because I went recently. If you go to Barnes & Noble and you look at the books and you'll see there, sometimes I go just to peruse and see what's out there. All the flashy colors and all the extravagant artwork on the front demonstrates that they require more attention to be drawn to that book in order for you to go even look at it, because the writing quality isn't as good. If it requires that much marketing, that much attention grabbing, like movement to catch your eye, then it most likely means it was required for a reason, as in the contents within it perhaps might be not as exciting as you desired or what you anticipated. The more simplistic the cover, the artwork, the design, usually the better quality writing that's inside. So, great thing. That's why all religious books, actually, to be quite frank, don't have much extravagance, because they recognize how extraordinary they are. So they don't require artwork on it, like on the cover or anything like that. It speaks for itself. Same with the Bible, same with the Quran, same with the Torah. They all do the exact same thing. They don't need extra fancy marketing because it speaks for itself. Do we see a trend here? Okay. And so, when I first picked this up, I, again, was completely unfamiliar with LDS. Oh, and the reason I keep making LDS videos, y'all, is because no other paradigms really are responding back to any of my other videos. I made one on Eastern Orthodox. I made one on Catholicism. I made one... Did I make one on Buddhism? No, I didn't make one on Buddhism. Like, no other paradigms. And I made videos on, like, philosophy and cognition. However, they're, like, buried within the titles. Like, you have to actually click on them and show more than just, like, caveman logic and clicking things to have access and perceive those things. But y'all are the only paradigm that keeps playing back with me. So that's why I keep going back to you guys. Anyways. Again, when I first grabbed this, I was just so extraordinary by it. I looked at it and I was like, oh my gosh. I felt like I entered a completely different universe. Okay. Again, this is me coming from an outsider. When I first opened it, I just opened it to a random page, and I'll reenact actually how I felt. I'll just read this first. I'm in 1 Nephi 8:26. And I also cast my eyes round about, and beheld on the other side of the river of water a great and spacious building, and it stood as it were in the air, high above the earth. Okay, that reads just like the Bible. Surface layer. It reads just like the Bible. The formatting, the text, the tone of speech, the word utilization. I felt like when I read it, I was like, oh my gosh, I entered a completely different, like, parallel universe where I grew up reading this and being a member of the LDS. Like, that's how it felt to me reading it, because I was like, oh my gosh, this is literally just like the Bible. Like, it reads just like the Bible, like the word utilization, everything. Oh, I remixed this. Because this was in there. But I did write on the back, don't take everything so seriously or you'll miss the purpose of life. So this is a cute little card that was in here. But all the words in here and stuff, like the grammar, the tones, it's so cool. And it's just like a whole new paradigm of universe of stories that I've never heard before. And so that's why I really liked reading it, because it was, again, just completely different stories that I'm unfamiliar with, zero recollection or awareness to what these timelines are and all these stories in here. And I read a lot because I wasn't actually quite familiar with the background of how the Book of Mormon actually came about. And so when I started reading it, I just started reading it. I didn't know the backstory on Joseph Smith, this and that. And so I just started reading, and I wasn't aware that they crossed over into the Americas, because I read for a while. And I never caught that they meant, because they talked about going over like a body of water that was near Jerusalem. And so I was like, okay. I was thinking about like the Mediterranean or something like that. I didn't realize it was to the Americas. So I felt like such a bozo when someone clarified that for me. They're like, oh, it's talking about the Americas. I'm like, oh, that's what that body of water was. Oh yeah. This is what confused me, because this is the only preview. This is where I jumped into the story, because I had no idea. I'm just like, I'm going to read this book as if it's any other book. Like, so I went and I just started from the first book of Nephi. It says this, an account of Lehi, I apologize again if I'm mispronouncing these words, and his wife Sariah, and his 4 sons being called, beginning at the eldest, Laman, Lemuel, Sam, and Nephi. The Lord warns Nephi to depart out of the land of Jerusalem, because he prophesieth, again, biblical language, unto the people concerning their iniquity, and they seek to destroy his life. Tell me that verse doesn't sound like sacred vibes. The Lord warns Lehi to depart out of the land of Jerusalem. Like, how often do people say, depart from the city, because bad stuff's going to happen to you, because someone seeketh your life? Okay? It just gets you hooked on to what's about to occur. You're like, oh my gosh. Like, someone warned this dude to get out of the city because bad stuff's about to happen, or people are about to destroy his life. Like, oh, what's going to happen next? And then he taketh 3 days' journey into the wilderness with his family. Again, he taketh, right? It's so much cooler than saying he took 3 days. He went into the woods for 3 days with his family. What sounds cooler? He went into the woods with his family for 3 days, or he taketh 3 days' journey into the wilderness with his family. Oh, it's so good. Nephi taketh his brethren and returneth to the land of Jerusalem after the record of the Jews. Again, that story is like, wait, what? Nephi came back and his brethren, what happened to his dad? Or who's Lehi? I think Lehi's his dad. What happened to his mom and dad? And you're like, Nephi, what happened to them? And then it says, the account of their sufferings, which, although that is an incomplete sentence, however, I have incomplete sentences in my diary, so I understand. The account of their sufferings. I am assuming a recording of their sufferings, right? The stories. Like, obviously, it's going to talk about some really cool stuff, right? They fled into the wilderness because people are trying to kill them. And then all of a sudden, it's talking about like all of a sudden the Lehi and Sariah disappear from this plot line, and so you're just like, oh my gosh, something bad must have happened in the wilderness. Anyways, They take the daughters of Ishmael to wife. And it's like, what? Oh, and then this like unknown character Ishmael comes in. The daughters of Ishmael. To be quite frank, they sound quite beautiful. Because when I played soccer, okay? I played soccer at the Air Force Academy, and we played BYU. And I just remember all the women were so beautiful. The entire team would look like they were Amazonian women. And I was like, I would love to have all of you as my wife. So I understand why certain people like Joseph Smith perhaps had more than one wife, because Mormon women are beautiful. Okay, I have to be honest. They're beautiful. They just like look like angels. They're so beautiful. Ugh. BYU, like literally. Like the planet of Amazon, wherever Wonder Woman's from. They all look like that. They had like beautiful braids. And then someone was like, yeah, half of them have kids. I'm like, what? And their moms? They're this beautiful, like, goddesses running around and have like these amazing soccer skills. And their moms? Like, how do they have time to do all that? Like, they're so extraordinary. Oh, so beautiful. Mormon women are beautiful. I've never met an ugly Mormon female. I can't say that about the men. There are some kind of not aesthetic men. However, there are really pretty women in LDS. Okay, I got off track. Sorry, I got distracted by Ishmael's daughters. Ugh. Okay. They take their families and depart into the wilderness. Well, that just sounds like a good time. Okay, who doesn't love a camping family trip? It sounds like a wonderful time to make memories of their families. Oh, I have the best memories of going camping with my dad growing up. Oh, there are sufferings and afflictions in the wilderness. Okay, well, every family has arguments as well in the wilderness. I'm sure someone smelled bad after not showering, or, you know, perhaps someone farted in the tent. Everyone has experienced that, okay? Sufferings and afflictions, I agree. It's terrible. They probably didn't have access to wine. The course of their travels. Now that sounds fun. Now that sounds like a road trip that every family has taken that has had some bumps in the road. They come to the large waters. See, this is where I didn't realize that they were crossing over to the Americas. This is where my confusion came. Because I was like, they come to the large waters. I was like, okay. I love camping by big lakes, because I've been up in like Colorado and stuff. There's some really beautiful mountain lakes. They have like trout, and it's like glacial waters in Washington State. And so I thought maybe they came to like, they were in the wilderness, right? They were in the mountains or whatnot. And they came across a large lake or large waters. I did not recognize it was also, I mean, the Atlantic Ocean also quantifies as a large body of water, but so does Lake Superior, you know, like, or the Dead Sea, I would argue. Like, if I was trying to swim across the Dead Sea, I would drown. Well, I don't know if I could drown because you're like so flamboyant in the Dead Sea. I would turn into a raisin. I'll get pickled before I made it to the other side. And same for the Mediterranean, right? If I was trying to swim across the Mediterranean, depending if I was going longitudinally or laterally, I perhaps may find that it's a large body of water. So again, it was confusing for me. So I apologize. I did not realize it was crossing over to the Americas, which made it even cooler. It made it so much cooler that once I found that out. Nephi's brethren rebel against him. This is the ultimate summary of all the stuff that's in here. It's so good. Nephi's brethren rebel against him. Rebelling against him. Guys, who doesn't love, like, Game of Thrones? That's all about families slaughtering families. Game of Thrones right here. The OG Game of Thrones. Which I don't know what time period this came in. But there are a lot of brethren rebelling against brethren in all the books that are defined under religious categories. So it's a vibe. It's a family thing. I think it's a male thing. I'm unsure. He confoundeth them and buildeth a ship. Ugh, that sounds like he beat him. Like, little man made it out. And while he confused them and had them going in a labyrinth looking for him, he built a ship. This man, what can he not do? Oh, it's so cool. They call the name of the place Bountiful. That's a good name. I would have called it that too. The Big B. Big Bounty Bountiful. Brethren. Beautiful, bountiful brethren and breasts. So I had to throw one in there. Okay. They crossed the large waters into the promised land and so forth. That bountiful promised land, yum, yum, flowing with milk and honey, I assume. This is according to the account of Nephi, or in other words, I, Nephi, wrote this record. And then that's when a light clicked off. I was like, oh my gosh, this is like his personal diary. He's writing like his personal diary. Isn't that all? And I was like, oh, I'm trying to publish my personal diary because, so I know how it feels, dude. They crossed the large waters. Blah, blah, blah. This is according to the account of Nephi, or in other words, I, Nephi, wrote this record. Is that not a diary? Is this not a diary or a memoir? This is a person's memoir. So cool. I even wrote, look, Nephi's diary. And I made sure to recognize that he's the youngest because I was confused with how many siblings there were. But anyways, yeah. Should I read more? I don't know. Like I don't remember reading any of this. So let's just go on to see what occurs. This is in italicized, chapter 1. Nephi begins the record of his people. Lehi sees in vision a pillar of fire and reads from a book of prophecy. He praises God, foretells the coming of the Messiah, and prophesies the destruction of Jerusalem. He is persecuted by Jews, about 600 BC. 600 because. And they ended the sentence. And for some reason they abbreviated because to BC. So about 600 because. But anyways, I didn't quite understand what happened there. It was like a cliffhanger. And I was like, 600 because what? What happened to the 600? But I will go on. This is why I love personal diaries. There's just like so much stuff going on. I, Nephi, having been born of goodly parents, therefore I was taught somewhat in all the learning of my father. Y'all, the first thing he does when he writes in his diary is thank his parents. How awesome and extraordinary is that? Okay? And having seen many afflictions in the course of my days. Meaning, when he was growing up, he perceived the things that his parents went through. He saw his dad taking them out into the wilderness and fleeing for his life. Like, how cool is that? Nevertheless, having been highly favored in the Lord in all my days, yea, having had a great knowledge of the goodness and the mysteries of God, therefore I make a record of my proceedings in my days. That is literally him saying, hey, I want to think. That's just him doing his introduction to his diary, to his book. That's why it's called the Book of Nephi. I guess the first book of Nephi. He's literally, his introduction, chapter 1 is thanking the people that were significant in his life. Oh, it's so cool. And he talks about why he's doing it. It's like, hey, I'm doing this because I'm highly favored of the Lord in all my days. And because of that, I have great knowledge of the goodness and the mysteries of God. Therefore, I make a record of my proceedings in my days. Isn't that so sweet? Oh, I love it. Yea, I make a record in the language of my father, which consists of the language of the Jews and the language of the Egyptians. How cool is that? Like, not many people can say that and articulate that well, where they got these words from. Oh, I love it. And I know, he utilizes the word know. Oh, so powerful. So you know he can answer the question from any paradigm, any belief, any perspective. Because when you utilize the word know, it means from like quantum to cosmic, no matter what question's asked, you can answer it on that question or that what that subject is. And he's declaring that, and it's so powerful. And I know that the record which I make is true. It's like, well, duh, you experienced it, man. Of course it's true. Why would there be any reason to disbelieve another human, right? Everyone gets to experience. That's like the beauty of free will. Everyone gets to choose what they experience and how they articulate what they experience. Every movement pattern, like the movement patterns, to be quite frank, before they're assigned to definition, are all the same. There's only so many movement patterns that exist. You can make so many different things with them, but once people can explain them however they want. It doesn't matter. However you want to describe the same fundamental movement patterns, it works. And it's true because it's your version. You created it. That is your version, your explanation. It is true. So don't bother arguing with people that are trying to say it's not true. It's just like, okay, excuse me. Actually, it's easier. What I do is I just agree with them. Well, sometimes I play with them a little because I get intrigued. But I end up just agreeing with them because when they start to kind of fall apart cognitively, I just say, yes, I agree with you. I agree with everything you're saying. That's true. I apologize. I misunderstood. And I just move on. If someone wants to argue with you about your truth, then just agree with them. If you get annoyed with them, just be like, yeah, I agree with you. Apologies for the misunderstanding and confusion. And go on with your life. It's your truth. That is a very good utilization of the word know. I know that the record which I make is true. Well, yes, because you lived it. You experienced it. It's true. And I make it with mine own hand. Again, no one's doubting you, man. Like you even said, this is your diary. This is your book. Ugh. See how terrible fear could be? Like this poor person's trying to like justify why what he has to say is worthy of being read. And I make it with mine own hand. And I make it according to my knowledge. Yeah, man. Why would anyone? I just don't understand. Like, every book you read has truth in it. So it's like, why do people like get upset about, like reading other books? This is a great story. Like, this is an extraordinary bedtime story. For it came to pass in the commencement of the first year of the reign of Zedekiah, king of Judah. And I just, to be familiar with the kingdom of Judah and the two kingdoms of Israel during that time period, I would assume. That's what 600 BC. Oh my gosh. Oh, I'm so stupid. Oh, BC. 600 BC is a date. Oh. I thought it was called something else. I've seen CE and AD. I thought AD and then CE. No, BC I thought was like cavemen. I'm so confused about the dates on that. Anyways, I thought BC. BC is like ancient times, like prehistoric. Oh, never mind. Time gets weird. I think there's a certain time period people define, and it counts backwards. And then after it crosses a certain threshold, it starts counting forwards. So that's where I get confused. It's like, bro, what's going on? Oh, it's about to be 30 minutes. But I love this because the kingdom of Judah, I forgot the two kingdoms of Israel when the kingdom split. The Babylonians came in, they took the basically the top 1% captive. Oh, it's in my diary. I wrote a story about that. Or did I? I'm not sure if I wrote the story about the Babylonian capture and the diaspora. Ugh. that's a mic drop. What they accomplished there, that's a mic drop. But hopefully everyone liked this bedtime story.